love the city of Detroit and love what I do now.
It's where I'm from, born and raised. I love it here.
It's the grit, it's the opulence, it's all of that.
Create something or somebody go tell you what to do.
You gotta bet on yourself.
This is Container on the Metro, a series highlighting Detroit creatives, exploring their worlds through community and artistry. I'm Tia Graham. This episode, we'll say what up, though, to Taylor Childs.
My name is Taylor Childs. I am an educator, fiber and textile artist, as well as a storyteller.
Taylor has made a name for herself in art and fashion. In 2025, Taylor was named a Kresge, Gilda, Snowden Emerging Artist. She was a prominent designer featured in Detroit Month of Design, and she is a standout for this year's Michigan Fashion Week. Taylor graduated from College of Creative Studies and Cranbrook Academy of Art. The limit seemingly doesn't exist for Taylor in what she can create. Taylor's designs are unique in that she practices sustainable fashion. But as Taylor would tell it, she learned how to create something out of nothing from her family, starting with her grandmother, who made sure the neighborhood was a community.
Well, my grandmother, she is, when we talk about the word sustainability, I feel like in like the Black community, we don't really highlight like sustainability in the way of like survival. And so my grandmother, she flipped the HUD house. It was like a 2-family flat, and she was like a little businesswoman. And she would always say like, if it has a good roof, you could work with it. And so I grew up in a beautiful home that she redone on the east side of Detroit, and everyone that lived on our block was considered family. And then when you get older and now like these words are trending like sustainability and urban farmers, I feel like it's like a lost dialogue of like Black people who just naturally like do it in order to like survive and live.
Yeah. We're going to definitely get into that, but I do want to talk to you just a little bit about Apex Bar and what it meant to your family, especially as they were cementing themselves here in the city of Detroit. So just give me a little background about the importance of it, especially for your grandma.
Yeah, my grandmother actually worked in the bar, so she always had memories of the bar. My mom would always joke like, what type of 14-year-old goes into a bar? But it was a family business. And my grandmother, my great aunt, they would always joke like, we need to write a book, and that would be it. Like, so now in my practice, I'm like, I'm writing their book. Like, we're writing the book now.
Yes.
Through the work that I'm doing. Yeah.
From the 1940s to its closing, the Apex Bar was a staple in the North End. It was a third space and more than a local watering hole. In 2024, Taylor participated in Detroit Month of Design with an exhibition honoring and archiving the history of the bar through the lens of her family. She used reclaimed items that she thrifted and some that belonged to her grandmother to create collages of fabrics and stitching patterns that reflect images of her family and community. For Taylor, preserving the history is a way of reminding people of what was and what can be for Detroit. I caught up with Taylor at her home studio as she worked at her sewing machine.
So within my process, I paint first, and then I build up the material, and then I come in and add. It's like an additive process until it feels complete. So it goes through different stages of being.
And you did that with nails on.
I know, but I'm like, nails are protection.
Yep, you said, no, I need this extra line of defense.
This extra line of defense.
So what are you working on right now that you have on the wall?
So this piece, I feel like is still far from done, but this is my great-grandma's tablecloth. So I also think of like the textiles in my home as an archive. And so I'm adding to that narrative of what she already created. And then I also have like some artifacts. So I'm replicating some of these symbols that are found in the home to tell another story, as well as adding and destroying basically a lace tablecloth and adding it onto the top of it. So this is a new piece that I'm trying to figure out, but it's in its very raw stages. And typically I don't bead until the end, but it was just sometimes like the process is just intuitive.
I just think about just the history of that all and connecting to you, archiving. It's always been a part of your family is to tell a story, to tell the family story. How do you feel being a part of that lineage of continuing to be a storyteller?
It's so funny because I did talk about how, like, my grandma, like, we should write a book. It never happened. But I really honor the stories that I told because through school, I realized that those stories were impacting my work. And, you know, sometimes you have, like, intuitive things, of ways that you're working and you're just working through material. And then when you take a step back, you're like, oh, this connects. I care about, like, these stories that were so entrenched into my DNA, basically. And so I am excited to be an archivist now and embrace that term.
As we continue to go around, you have some of your samples here.
Yeah, so that is a VHS tape jacket. I wove it out of VHS tapes, and it's 2 iterations of that. I actually used a Cranbrook loom, and a Cranbrook loom is a big loom that is used for weaving rugs. The VHS tape was very temperamental to like work with because it will snap, and it was snapping on the loom that we had. But I kind of just embraced the unraveling in that process of things. And then the other jacket, it resembles like a Chanel cut jacket, and the weave of it also reminds me of Chanel. So what does it mean to make beauty out of discarded things, and what makes luxury? So I was just thinking about consumer culture, bling culture, all those type of things. And like, this was like really the start of me really experimenting with material. I did that jacket in undergraduate. So just really thinking through materials.
My name is Jeremy Noonan. I serve as the head of fiber and textiles in the Department of Studio Art and Craft at College for Creative Studies.
Jeremy met Taylor when he began teaching at College of Creative Studies in 2013. He says Taylor has the unique ability of finding the intersections that exist within art and fashion using various materials that speak to her community.
So from the first time I met Taylor, day one, she stood out to me, not just for her talent, but her ability to blend influences of fashion, fine art, and fiber into something distinctly her own. Beyond her art practice, Taylor has been at university prep in the city before she went to grad school. And then when she left, she ended up working with Tracy Reese for Hope for Flowers. And so a lot of the work that Taylor does with Hope for Flowers is community building work. And so she introduces artwork to people, individuals in the city of various ages. And so not only is she, making work about her lived experience, she's sharing that with the community in a really robust way.
The skills that Taylor learned in academia helped further her techniques using fabrics and textiles to create works of art and wearable fashion. As she continues to add more skills to her resume, she's mentoring the next generation of creatives in the city, showing them what's possible. As Jeremy said, Taylor works with Hope for Flowers, a local sustainable fashion business founded by Tracy Reese. Taylor mentors through the Artisan Studios Art Enrichment Programming, teaching the arts through community-rooted education. When I asked her what came first, her love of fashion or her love of art, Taylor says it simply started with basic art instruction in grade school.
Being in schools in Detroit, I feel like you always get introduced to like art first because of the lack of resources. And as like an educator myself, I'm always trying to put fiber in students' hand or like mosaic tiles, different mediums that wouldn't be accessible to inner city kids. So because like a lot of kids are like, I am not an artist. And I'm like, you just don't know what your medium is. You might be an artist. It's just you might do photography and you haven't even had the chance to have access to a camera. So just thinking about how I can add accessibility to people in our city.
Because just like you said, a lot of the times we will have an art class, one, art class if we had that growing up. And oftentimes it's crayons, markers, maybe the little pastels, little watercolor here and there, but nothing too substantial in terms of the different materials that you can work with, which I find is so interesting. So in what ways are you using or how are you introducing these materials to the kids, and what are some of their reactions when they are working with some of those materials for the first time?
I've taught middle school, so 7th grade on up, some elementary, and then I was a high school teacher primarily in crafts and fibers at University Prep.
Nice.
And so it's very interesting, even like giving like different supplies to little ones, because they'll finish their projects and then they'll be like, can I play with material? And I'm such like that teacher, like, yes, let me grab you some stuff. And I see kids like constructing like buildings on the side, and like I think they're thinking through material in a way that I think about within my practice, and they remind me of like sometimes you can overthink like the themes and like how everything is connect. They remind me just to play with material and see what the material wants to say. And so I'm really like in the classroom, my kids always joke like, we never see your work. I'm like, it's about y'all, because it's a gift of like I'm getting a gift through watching them work through learning and figuring things out in the classroom.
My name is Lauren Hicks, the founder and CEO of Michigan Fashion Week.
Lauren, talk about Taylor's involvement in Michigan Fashion Week.
Yeah, so this is actually Taylor's second time being in Michigan Fashion Week, and I was talking to Taylor the other day, and she said, your fashion week or your fashion show is the best show around town. So I just enjoy being in a show, and that just brought so much good. It was so happy to see that, because she's so talented, she's so popular, and to say that Michigan Fashion Week is one of her favorite shows at the end, it's just really, really touching, because that's our goal, is to get these designers so comfortable enough that they want to be in our show time after time, and it's actually being beneficial for their career and beneficial for their brand. So Taylor makes me happy, and her designs are absolutely beautiful.
Michigan Fashion Week is one of the largest events celebrating designers in the state, exposing their work to new audiences. Taylor is among the next wave of designers using the city of Detroit as inspiration for her creations. One thing about Detroit and its fashion is dressing to impress. No matter what the event is, Detroiters put on Sunday's best. From the whitest Air Force Ones to minks and furs to gaiters, it's a show. And as Taylor's career continues to grow, so does her attention to detail. And as you know, Taylor creates with storytelling in mind, and Detroit's Black culture is usually at the forefront of the conversation. Taylor says, historically, through the Great Migration and Southern roots, dressing well gave people a sense of pride and freedom of expression, and sometimes the only way of gaining entrance in a space.
We have a way of like showing up and like, it's like peacocking, you know, in a way. I did like a lot of my undergrad thesis on just like hip hop and how we adorn ourselves as like status, like throwing on chains or like 7 Mile, you know, we got the Detroit D's. And it's also like a nonverbal like communication within each other. Fashion, it just is, especially within Black community, like we are a buff city. Like
I was gonna say,
that's us, you know, and that's like our peacocking. That's our way of representing ourselves. And so I feel like as Black people, like I would always hear the thing like, you know, you dress. I've always dress up when I go outside. I don't care where I'm going, but I was raised by a grandmother, and she was like really big about presenting yourself well, because she grew up in an era of they will turn you down based off of what you look like. And with all the things that I have going against me, you're not going to say that this one thing that I can control is going to be against me. And so I think fashion and like those things have so much roots to like the diaspora and all of it.
No matter what she is creating, Detroit is always at the center of her work alongside her family, telling the story so many Black Detroiters know and understand through wearable, sustainable fashion, often showcasing the power art and fashion can hold in a community. When asked if she prefers to be known as a Detroit artist, Taylor says she hopes her work speaks to all people, especially folks connected to the greater diaspora.
I always think about how people label me like a Detroit artist,
Yeah.
which I don't hate. Like, I love my city, but I feel like that kind of limits us, and it limits our history, and it limits everything about our identity. Detroit is the Black story. And we always get overshone, and you think about all these other things connected to us, but really we are the Great Migration story. We are the hustle story. We are all of that. We are resiliency. We are the story of Black people trying to make a way to build. Before it was any resources here, we still had each other. We still had community, and I think that is the Black story.
To keep up with Taylor, follow her on Instagram at Taylor Childs Studios and at The Urban Army, or visit her website at taylorchildsstudios.com. Container is a project of the Love Building in Detroit in collaboration with WDET and supported by the Gilbert Family Foundation. This series is produced by Connor Anderson, Jose Yanis, and me, Tia Graham. Original music's done by Sam Bobian, audio editing by Connor Anderson, and our executive producer is David Lyons. To hear new episodes every Monday, subscribe to the Metro's podcast feed on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Learn more at wdet.org/container.